someone who is very, very lucky to be able to say that my life changed as a result of sitting with plant medicine, namely ayahuasca, also mushrooms later on in ceremonial context. And I've been reflecting on this very, very deeply. Not just why did my life change, but actually what happened in those actual ceremonies that was so transformative. We say that the medicine shows you who you are. It shows you where you're lying to yourself. It shows you what you're missing. It shows you yourself without or with fewer defenses, with fewer walls up. Who are you really? What is it really like to be you? What is buried there that you've been keeping suppressed, right? However, I have to say that without the right facilitator at the right moment in at least two of my ceremonies, I would not have received the guidance that I needed. I would not have reworked or changed something very, very core. And the reason for this is that the medicine will show you that which is kind of in your subconscious and at the edge, right? Close to your awareness, something that is ready to bubble up if you're ready to see it. However, most of our traumas, most of the stuff that keeps us stuck is actually coded and stored not in our memory, not in our explicit memory or subconscious memory, but what is known as our implicit memory. What is that? That is an experience, a traumatic, either relational experience lasting a long time or a single experience or some blend of those, doesn't get coded into your mind as, oh, something bad is happening to me. That's easier when somebody attacks you or something like that, right? There's an specific event. What about relational trauma that happens over and over that you don't even clock as being traumatic? It's just normal to you. So where does that go? That doesn't go into the category in your mind that says, oh, my mother is constantly neglecting me, or I'm constantly being criticized, or I feel too alone in the world, which was my experience. There's no category for that in our mind. So that becomes our implicit memory. And how that shows up is in our body language, in our behavior, in our preferences, in our ways of relating to other people. And so what happened for me was that, and I've talked about this in my long form video on ayahuasca. If you are interested, go into my YouTube channel. It's like over an hour, and I really go into detail because I really felt it was important to have someone speak through some of the nuances that very often get glossed over. Anyway, so for me, what happened was I was living through one of those implicit memories, but I didn't know it because it was implicit. And it took a very attuned, very skilled facilitator to recognize it. And I'll give you just the brief outlines of what happened, which is that it was probably about 2 or 3 hours into the ayahuasca journey. I had to go to the bathroom. And I had one of the facilitators walk me to the bathroom because you're a little wobbly. And on the way back, I was reluctant to go into the ceremony space. And I said, can we sit outside? I just want to stay outside. She said, okay. And we started talking. And she recognized something really, really crucial, which was that the reason I didn't want to go back into the space wasn't that I needed some fresh air or something like that. It was that in my body, being in that space on my little cot, doesn't matter that there were 20 other people around me, I felt alone because my trauma of abandonment was right there. I was alone in my journey. Nobody knew what I was going through. Nobody could understand me. You see what I'm saying? You see how that becomes implicit? It wasn't something I was sitting there or lying there thinking about Or when I said, I don't want to go back into the ceremony space, I'm too alone in there, that's not what I said. It took some awareness and attunement on the part of the facilitator. And so I think about this a lot because if it weren't for her, if it weren't for those 20 minutes that we spent together outside, I would not have done the deep work that I ended up doing. And now I can say it was like 10 years worth of therapy and those 20 minutes. And of course, the rest of the journey. I'm not at all minimizing the rest of the journey. It was very powerful. There were lots of other aspects there that I ended up needing to integrate and process and work through that were life-changing, really, really life-changing. But this one piece of working through implicit trauma, that without that really attuned facilitator would not have happened. It just would not have. I would have dealt with my aloneness in some way. I might have socialized with one of the other participants, or I would have suffered, or whatever, right? I would have gotten through it somehow because what are the options? But I would not have gone into and acknowledged the childhood trauma that was actually being lived through me in that experience, and I just couldn't have known. And so I wanted to speak to this because people are seeking this medicine, whether ayahuasca or mushrooms or San Pedro or peyote or any of the others. And I really, really want to impart this piece that, of course, set and setting, right? Your mindset, your setting, and also so hugely important, your facilitators. Who is going to be in the ceremony with you? Not necessarily one-on-one, it could be a retreat and it could be just as well, because a lot of the time you are going through your own journey. No, nobody's sitting next to you the whole time. That's not actually helpful. But who's there? Are they capable of, and this something that they are attuned to very deeply, of paying attention to what's happening for you? Are they able to sit with you? It's not a long time. You don't need a long time. But if need be, are they able to attune? This is something that I am really, really thinking about these days, in part because it's just so crucial. It was so crucial to my healing. And same for one of the mushroom journeys I was in. It was so important that this facilitator came up to me and checked in, and not just like, you okay? But actually like, tell me what's going on for you. And I did, and then ended up pouring out another layer of something that needed to come through at the time. You need the facilitator to know that this is important, that this isn't just you get the medicine and the medicine shows you where you're supposed to see, and that's that. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. So I'm curious if you've already had a journey or more. Are you relating to this? And do you have any other ways of expressing or any other thoughts about what I'm saying? I'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.